It was very privileged to invite you to this forums, and I hope that my presentation is helping you to understand the NGO's efforts to supporting cooperatives at the field level with as implementing partners. Before I start my presentation, I like to share my brief background about working with in the rural area. And 6 years ago, when I started working in the rural area called Yei in South Sudan, I didn't have much experience about cooperatives and even agriculture. However, since then, as a generalist, general practitioner specialized on project development and implementing and monitoring evaluation, I start to live in the community with the small-scale farmers and work closely with them, with my efforts to understanding their perspectives and even their motivation for their life in their own environment. So because of Yei in South Sudan is located in Greenbelt zone in Africa, so and 99% of our community members are the farmers. So that is why it is inevitable that the socio-economic development through agriculture sector is very important. And also I realized in Africa, especially South Sudan settings, even Rwanda, it has a long history of cooperative. They already have experienced one or the other, so it's not a new concept. Then I raised two big questions. And if the small-scale farmers already experiences and cooperative, why? Why some cooperatives are doing well, and or why some not? And my second question is, then as implementing the NGO to providing support directly to the cooperatives, what will be our best approaches, best practice to supporting those cooperatives to take the roles and responsibility they are expected? And this is this is answers that I find that in my journey. 굿네이버스 International is international humanitarian development NGOs founded in 1991 in Korea. So with the missions that we make the world a place with a hunger and where the people live in harmony. So respecting the human rights of our neighbors, that 굿네이버스 we try to supporting the people to achieve their self-reliance. And also they feel for their life is they have their ownerships for redevelop their hope for the future. So for that, currently we working in 35 different countries with implementing 198 community development projects and having 3 supporting countries. So uniqueness about the 굿네이버스 approach is for the community in developing countries that we established the community development projects. This is creates a basis, the basis for the community members to able to access in their basic services and economic opportunity. For this project, the community development committees take the important role to implement it. It's because community development is also laid in different area, so we have to use the holistic developmental approaches in the area of health, education, protection, and water and sanitation, and community partnership and agriculture, as well as income generation. For our income generation sectors, currently we working with more than 100 registered cooperatives and associations, and as well as income generation groups. This is pre-cooperative associations. and we working with almost like more than 1.7 million community members around the world. And why then this economic development emphasized on 굿네이버스 community development? As I mentioned earlier, the community development have faced many challenges because it has to be developed in different layers of the area. But in realistic, the fund is very limited. So especially those communities that we have been working for a long time, we had a series of discussion in depth with the community members. How can we utilizing our limited funding sources for the best of the community? Our finding is that many community members express that why don't we prioritize our funding on the economic development. It's called like income generation activities in the communities, so that they can be more self-reliable to supporting their own children to go to school, and when their family members get sick, they can bring them to the hospital. Even they even express that if they are more capable in economics, they can even contribute to developing their own community development fund. So when you see this economic development cycles, this is very virtuous cycle for our community development. If the community members is voluntarily participate more, then they experience the positive outcomes from the income generation project. They can be more motivated and changing their behavior and able to share their visions with the other community members, and it will be goes to promote capacity building in the community, and they are the circle that we are looking for our community development. Then what is 굿네이버스 alternative community development model? Traditionally, like as other NGOs, we provide aid in different sectors, which is not definitely it's helpful, but it's not sustainable. So for our alternative models, as I mentioned earlier, CDIPC, which is a representative body for the community members, was established together with the CDC, that we organizing community members to form cooperatives. So with these triangle structures, we are more interactive with each other to promote community development and economic development. At the same time, 굿네이버스 providing seed money for the community. It's called Community Development Fund. And this one is closely monitoring by us as well as the CDC. And the cooperative able to access this CDF as a loan with a lower interest rate through the comparative demand-driven mechanism, and also the very transparent selection process. So for that, for this format, where we can have a more active community participatory structures, and also providing the good governance and democratic decision-making process, as well as it results in the strong partnership and the community ownerships. And also, it's important to set up the community development fund, which is mostly revolving. And also, this one leading through the important roles and responsibility for the cooperatives and income generation group in the community. And what 굿네이버스's strength as NGOs, implementing as an implementing partner of yours to support cooperative. As NGOs, we are more focusing on providing technical support, because we are able to utilizing the resources at different levels for relations of trust fund. Even we are able to implementing the capacity and providing expertise through our community network. And also because of our experience to working in the community for a long time, we understand the local context where the cooperative belongs to. By doing, and also we have already existing community partnership and the mutual trust bonds. And our local staff with the equip the expertise and experience in different areas, agribusiness, agriculture, livestock, and the community development. They can the one in the front lines to deliver our services. And also this the whole things will and have been promote our community empowerment and the government for sure. This is a timeline of 굿네이버스의 efforts on social economic. In 2008, we're starting with the small microcredit programs, but it is evolved as to promote the social economic business. So as you see, in 2013, the community development fund is called Income Generation Seed Fund is established, and the social economic division was initiated to supporting cooperative development and supports. And then later is that we are widening our knowledges and support in the to make sure that cooperatives, even like a small group of farmers, keep their finance and business management skills and knowledge. And even we initiate the social enterprise division to open more market and creating the value chains. If I briefly mention about our organization in Rwanda, we established in 1994 to support the victims of genocide. Currently, we operating 4 different districts and supporting 9,000 sponsored children and 92,074 community members. We have 6 community development projects, and 5 of them located in the rural area. And also, we are implementing partners with the WFP for the Samuel Zero Hunger Community Project for 6 years. And supporting 4 registered cooperatives and 15 pre-cooperative associations. And the government in Rwanda have a strong commitment to develop cooperatives. Even like before 1960s, you can see the cooperatives, the 4 cooperatives exist in Rwanda. However, the time the independent government doesn't see the cooperative as an economic entity. They more see this one is a social institute producing substance needs of its members. But still, numbers keep increasing. However, by the 1994 of the genocide in Rwanda, it's really disrupted all the cooperative movement as well as all social economic development in Rwanda. So actually, this genocide also gave a great impact to seems to have created opportunity of renewal of NGOs and government interest in juvenile cooperative movement. In result, in 2005, Rwandan government launched the task force for the cooperative promotion, which is later to transfer to the Rwanda Cooperative Agency to providing legal and administrative framework to the cooperatives. So as you see, comparing for the numbers between 2005 and now, is the registered cooperative number is almost like increasing to 10 times high. And according to the 2012 census data of Rwanda, 55.3% of populations is belong to the one or the other, like cooperative. Agricultural sector is has the highest number of cooperative members, and the women and the male ratio in membership is similar, and it has the share capital has increased to almost like over 900%. the Rwanda in agriculture has significant contributions to the Rwandan economy because approximately 30% of GDP is belong to, depending on agriculture, and the 69% of labor force also belong to the agriculture. That's why national policy have strong supporting for agriculture, development of agriculture's linkage to the economic development, and it has different agriculture seasons and having variety of crops to develop. A good thing is the government subsidy programs on the some seeds and fertilizer to supporting almost like 70 up to 70% of the seeds. Actually, this one is very helping for our maize farmers. So now I'm going to more narrow down my experience, our experience is working with the cooperative at the level. There will be three examples. One is the working with the farmers, which later to transform to the cooperative. Another one is working with the cooperative is developed from top down with the top down approaches, and the other is. Our experience on working with the cooperative with ODA fund, but having bottom-up approaches. First of all, for especially Undatwa cooperative, we working with only 16 farmers at the beginning, before 2014, and providing small microloan. But later, they had more experience with this group, and they happened to register in 2014 as a cooperative. And in a previous session discussion, many people mentioning about how we can motivate, encouraging the cooperative. It's very simple. My answer is very simple. If cooperative members benefit, like a tangible benefit, which they can see, it's easy. More farmers wants to be participated and to with their commitments. So that is why our first cooperative that we working with, the number is increased almost double in 3 years. This one is later to merge as one cooperative because most of these farmers are cultivated in the marshland, which is belong to the government. For the better management of land and water, government order all the farmers, cooperatives, and groups to become one cooperative. So currently they have 1,500 members, and there are major clubs. Major club is maize to sell as production cooperatives. For the good experience with this cooperative, because we working with them for a long time, so they already have experienced all the steps of development of a cooperative. That is why, even though now it's size up, that we can intervene from the beginning to make sure they have better structures and they have a better management and the business skill set. And you see some of the picture. One thing also we really want to see and intervene is the structures of the cooperative as well as their communication channels. In principle, in cooperative, one member have one vote. However, in developing country, many cooperative members living scattered in wide areas. That's why it's very hard to bring the older members in one area. So that's why it has to have a better structure, better communication skills that older members hear the information, so what to share among in the cooperatives. And also, as 굿네이버스 community development project, we providing the warehouse and the dryers as their infrastructures built. The cooperative become participate the entity stakeholders to managing the warehouse too. I almost my time's up, so I briefly mentioned about the ODA fund. and top-down approaches, because it is important to having ODA fund to developing rural infrastructures. However, we all agree that somehow the cooperative will take the great roles to take over to managing these infrastructures for the sustainability. But we also have to, one thing we have to also consider is you have to see where the cooperatives are. If it is new, early built, especially top-down, they have the wiggle of solidarity. They are not ready to managing this, managing their own business, even they own themselves, and even the infrastructures to build. That's why for the ODA fund, it has to be carefully used for the cooperatives to take. It has to take time, and have more from where they are. We have to provide more specific interventions to develop the cooperative. So this one I have to. So lesson to learn. Working with the different stages of cooperatives that we as NGO in the field to supporting them directly. It is important to having a good assessment on cooperative. Their organization structures, communication channels, main activity flow, and financing, etc. So that we have to analyzing, we have to customize and analyze what kind of intervention they need in different stages. For that, I have to providing different interventions for the cooperative development. By doing that, our lesson that we learned, we really needed to giving the hands-on consultations and closing monitoring. Usually many NGOs, even government, providing a lot of trainings for the cooperative and building some basic infrastructures in the community. And then we have to make sure that it's all the trainings and knowledge or input, even infrastructure, has to be delivered and managed in the right place and to the right, each individual members. So that is why it's really important that closing monitoring has to be followed up after those inputs. And the business marketing plan and strategy has to be set up from the beginning, and has to have a good government system within the cooperative and also the outside of cooperative, and to make sure there always has to the check and balance system to confirm the cooperative is operating as it is to reach their objectives. And it's also important to help them to have appropriate recording and documentation skills. And the agriculture infrastructures like irrigation and warehouse is not something that cooperative can do by themselves. That's why the ODA fund has great help to the cooperative members to more boosting their quality and quantity of the agricultural products through it. And also, it's important to put the female members' leaderships. Even though the ratio between men and the females' ratio is similar, somewhat the leadership positions male is more likely to take over. So that for the inclusion of family members, we have to introduce the better structures to invite the family and female leaderships. And also, the setup of the revolving fund is important. The one is it's not just providing a loan with lower interest rate, because good neighbors require all the farmers belong to the cooperative has to set up their own bank account, so that this one giving the opportunity to have experience with the financial institution. And also the solidarity of members is a key for the success of a cooperative. So either it's through the top-down approach or bottom-up approaches, and make sure that their relations among the members has to be strong enough. And this one actually bring the better leadership they can choose their leadership better. And the last is cooperative development needs time. So in my experience in Rwanda, when the ODA fund goes for the agricultural development, and there is some element of a cooperative. However, if it is a multi-year project for 5 years, 4 years they focusing on the development for the infrastructures, and maybe like 1 year for the cooperative, and they're expecting the cooperative will take over, which is not working in the field. So if we believe and we consider cooperative is key players for the agriculture development in a sustainable way, it is important that corporate development needs time, and the support has to be the multi years, and that in that case we can succeed, and also as NGOs we can fill up the gaps from the donors and also cooperative for the sustainable agriculture development. Thank you.